Hi, my name is Joanne Lee. I am a part of the Community Service Learning Program at the University of Alberta. We are currently working with the Regional Environmental Action Committee on a plastics remanufacture project. And I'm here to interview Dave Altis.
I am David Oltis. I work with Citizen Scientific Workshop. We're a workshop based in Boise, Idaho, USA. And we make all sorts of educational and science-related products, from educational robots to things that help with, community solutions and world solutions, such as waste plastics recycling machines. And so the shop behind you, what we do is we harness capabilities. We're trying to attract every way we can make something so that we can make anything. And this has been working out really well to develop supply chains for these new machines that are at a grassroots level, changing the way that we can recycle plastics.
That is already sounding great. Like your project, I can tell it's going to open up so many doors. How did you get started with these ideas, and how did you get started in this huge project?
You can take that back as far as you want. I think I got started wanting to make things ever since I can remember, wanting to have a hobby or being curious about something. And that's always led me through my life to use things that I find in order to make projects. And as I grew into, wanting to make that into my livelihood, I understood how I could always use something secondhand in order to build maybe something that didn't exist yet. And now we are at the point where, especially with the plastics machines with Precious Plastic, which is this great worldwide open source movement that develops waste recycling technologies, we've found that to be such a core part of how we might be able to make this work. And so, founding the company in 2012, we started with making, accessible and sustainably developed like small robotics kits. And the ethos behind that led us to want to scale and develop capabilities so that we can make better things and sort of restore not only a supply chain, but a localized level of manufacturing that's self-reliant, that can develop new technologies and make them accessible. So that can scale so well with Precious Plastic machines as a local solution for a common problem, that those talents that we've been developing just aligned perfectly with it.
So you said that your technology is aiming to be a more localized solution for plastic recycling, right? Please describe any significant differences between the sort of perhaps industrial recycling program or machines compared to yours?
So I think, as far as I can see, whenever I look at how recycling is being sort of processed through towns and communities everywhere, it looks at its heart kind of like a transit system. I don't see processing happening until many steps are already taken. And I think there's something we can acknowledge, that we all have a responsibility when it comes to how we use this, and if it's for one thing, then maybe as consumers, we can go an extra step and maybe clean and pre-sort our own plastics and then hand them directly to a processor. And then when we talk about processing as it exists, machines out there are, they're made to be very high flow. So in order to even start actually processing something, say within a community, you're looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars possibly of equipment. So it is extremely difficult for a community, even if they want to do something and have a healthy recycling program, the orders of operation necessary to get that are a very big deal, and they're often very costly.
Mm-hmm.
With the precious plastic machines, you have an option that's disrupted the size and scale. And that means that you can imagine this as solving a community problem down the street in your
Mm-hmm.
neighborhood with a target populace that really does want to do better with how we treat our plastics. And when you can see as a community member that you are adding to someone's livelihood, such as the people who want to start their own businesses, schools, municipalities, you can see these people self-starting, you aid them by doing a good job, providing them material, and then you get to see in your own community the output from these machines. So this is a shredder machine, and it basically chews up all sorts of plastics in really fun, exciting ways. This is an extruder machine, so you can take that shredded material and pass it through this heated screw and barrel and fill molds or make profiles and do all sorts of really fun, creative, sort of artisanal level plastics manufacturing. And that's really good too. You know, that creates jobs. The
Yeah.
way we've designed our shop is to be a supportive system for this type of output.
It's quite literally a reuse, reduce, recycle program in the neighborhood itself, right?
Yes,
Wow.
footsteps instead of,
Mm-hmm.
you know, large freight shipping containers full of plastic where nothing's being done with it until it leaves, and then what?
Yeah.
So you know, you get to walk along with it, and you get to see the circular life cycle.
Yeah. And there's that reassurance, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Well, now that we're on that, when you're working with plastics, did you notice any fumes?
There are realities to what plastics manufacturing looks like. And when we work with it, we wear 3M, like organic vapor masks, and gloves and safety goggles. Well, we use like rated safety glasses. We want to capture as much of, you know, it's largely a smell that comes with plastics. And when we're reprocessing, our concerns for capture are we developing any like fine dust? And so we can use air to capture that against filters. Are we creating any off-gassing? We can use this like a carbon filter to be able to capture that. So that way our external impacts, our carbon footprint when we're purposing this plastic is it's accepted, it's practically minded, and it's easy to mitigate.
A lot of people nowadays are still not aware that um, even just under normal sunlight, plastics can be releasing toxic fumes. So it's great that you're not only protecting yourself, but you're also doing that extra measure for the public.
Found plastics constantly sort of shedding in a way, you know, and scientists find that in fields everywhere. You know, microfine particles inside body systems of wildlife and ecosystems. And we need to capture that as closely as possible so it just never gets there. That should not be where these materials are ending up.
Now that we're on that topic, you did say microfine plastics. What are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on microplastics?
I think it comes with the, you know, relatively recent territory of what plastics even are. We are finding it everywhere when we look, and we can't ignore that. And we need to mature how we produce these materials, because plastics inherently are a wonderful material. You know, something so reusable is not something we've had for a long time. And we should be, you know, doing better, and that comes from every step of the way: how we make them, how we use them, and back again. I hope that even just, you know, the most meaningful incremental progress might help us see better things.
Leads to perfectly to the next question. When did you realize that, you need to work on this issue and that we need to transform the way that we are dealing with plastics?
I wonder, has it been evident possibly for our entire lives? I
Mhm.
mean, I definitely grew up with the same messaging, you know, in grade school. And I wonder if I've seen much progress since then. And yeah, so I think it's been evident for quite some time. I think waking up to solutions is a different matter. We've been aware of the problem, but
Mm-hmm.
are we able to actually visualize things that are practical solutions that sure maybe come at their own cost because of the nature of what we're dealing with in terms of consumer waste and post-industrial waste,
Mm-hmm.
but reprocessing that into something beneficial is, I think, something that's both practical, um, it's almost solvent, right? It should just be able to carry itself as a, as a practical way of life.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're getting there,
We're
especially
getting
with
there.
a lot of people pursuing, varied interests and specialties in making that happen.
Mm-hmm.
There's people that concentrate on building machines or that are researching how to automate plastic sorting. People that specialize in just what you make, and they make these beautiful molds for objects.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all just sort of starting out. They're all young companies with, building a history. And I think building on solutions that are solutions to crises now is going to be a very important and beneficial model for new companies that have a mission and
Mm-hmm.
they create value in that mission. And it's been cool to see all these different avenues sort of blending together in something that is a system that works well.
Mm-hmm. But and also obviously your company and your work is working towards that, right? But obviously technology still finding a way to get to that level where everyone can access that technology and um, manage plastic in a safer way. We are still getting there. So for now, what do you think that we should do with the plastics that are here that already exist, and we as consumers, how should we deal with them?
I think it comes down to when you find yourself holding that object in your hand. It could be packing material, a container, an old tool, a plastic box that cracked or something like that, and you are trying to get it out of your life, right? You are finished using it.
Mm-hmm.
Stopping to consider what it is, what it's made of, and what else might be done, and building a receptacle in your home that lets you put it there.
Mm-hmm.
And it may look different. It's just you're not throwing it away. You're keeping it to collect and move. So
Mm-hmm.
if you have lots of clear water bottles, figure out a way you can efficiently store them until you have enough, and then go
Mm-hmm.
find someone like me or someone who has these machines and ask if they'd like to process it for you, because that might be the exact person. They're popping up everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wants your plastic that has something to do with it.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of recycling, what do you think about the logos, those tiny logos that are on every plastic, almost every plastic products right now? Are they contributing to any sort of thing?
I mean, they're really recognizable, right? Every time
Mm-hmm.
you see those, it's, oh, okay, that's a certain kind of throwaway, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I know that in China, for example, they have something more like a periodic table of specific types of plastic that you can sort by,
Mm-hmm.
which is really awesome. Like it certainly helps me as somebody who's trying to figure out what to do with each, because it's more specific, it's better detailed. So consider number 7. If
Mm-hmm.
you see plastic recycling number 7 in North America, it's to be recycled, and it's number 7, so you can't throw it away or recycle it in traditional recycling programs. So you're
Mm-hmm.
lost, right? You're
Mm-hmm.
stuck in limbo. In the Chinese standard, that would be 7, 8, and 9 specifically, and you would know that 7 is an ABS, 8 might be a composite, and 9 might be PLA. think those are the numbers. I'm still trying to memorize them, but they're so helpful. And I want to universalize every best detail that we have. I love the recognizability. I love the fact that even simple identifiers can be stamped on everything that we make with them. You know, in terms of what we do, that's a really cool little hand stamp that you make at your workshop and, you know, get like a maker badge for, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we can expand upon that with the best practices across, you know, the entire planet, and gain something that is not the sum of its own benefits, they are multiplied.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to find those, you know, benevolent people that are just willing to do that on their own in an open source fashion,
Mm-hmm.
to build it and help inform what might be something that becomes a universal standard, but at the same time not make it something that can be adopted voluntarily by those people who want to do better,
Mm-hmm.
gain growth and traction that way. Um, so yeah, you know, just there's definitely room for improvement, and I don't want to sound critical because I like both the detail and the recognizability of the programs we have, but I also know that we can always do better. We can always try to improve.
That's true. Now that we're on this topic, what do you think is the most important message that the public should know right now?
I think that I mean, there's a few close competitors. What is the most important part of this?
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, for me, it comes down to plastics are not inherently a bad material. They are the most recent revolution in industry that we know, and they've defined it. And for the first time, we've come, you know, with great success becomes a lot of, you know, waste and exhaust. And in order for plastics to become something that is truly a great, uh, you know, engineering material, we need to consider the entire cycle of it and understand what we're making. And if it's been a century or so since modern plastics have been, uh, you know, have been born really on this world, it we have to look forward and make sure that it doesn't take another century to, you know, deal with the way we've possibly mistreated our newfound scale and abilities.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where our work can be, you know, maximized here and now, is just planting little pods that take care of the plastic and start to capture it from within a community and process it inside that community into something positive.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just I imagine little dots solving that problem everywhere, instead of and relying on a more distributed, more self-starting and sort of you know, by social consent, sort of, in a way, rather than needing a strong central infrastructure, because we see that those have never maintained what we actually waste in terms of this material.
Like what you said, it is a very malleable material that we can definitely be utilizing towards a better future, right? So um how do you uh in your perspective want to move forward with this movement? Is there
Oh,
anything
everything's
challenging?
changing about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, these most recent machines, uh, sort of the generation of plans were published in January 2020 by Precious Plastic Official. And 2 months later, lockdowns began happening.
Mm-hmm.
So we had started development to align the plans and technology to US material sizes and what was available here. They were designed in Europe and built with an ethic of, you know, easily able to be resourced parts, and in Europe, and metric designs, which I'm so happy about. But I live in the US and everything is in imperial units. And so
Yeah.
And one of the big challenges is just having that odd space in your brain that's set aside for conversions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We had just begun to adapt the official plans to US sizes and materials when lockdowns began happening. And we thought we were going to be, kind of like sheltered and, sheltering
Yeah.
in space for eight
Mm-hmm.
weeks. We're still doing that, now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what was already hard, what already didn't exist, there was no supply chain for, became a battle of establishing the supply chain as that chain is also beginning to show cracks and break down.
Mm-hmm.
And that has compounded all of those stresses that happen in, from everything to R&D to, delivering our products to our clients
Mm-hmm.
who spend time waiting for, their machines to arrive and in good order. And we need to shoulder and carry every bit of that commitment to make a machine and deliver it to somebody, because this is an industry where these are our lives. This is grassroots, and these are people. We
Mm-hmm.
are all people in this community, and we're all supposed to work together. And so we learned that we needed to stand in front of uh, that, the people we work for, in order to shield them from a lot of those stresses.
Mm-hmm.
Everything from, waiting for motors, for parts to be made, just to collect them and finish these machines has been it's just been a constant battle of,
Mm-hmm.
attrition and energy.
Yeah.
What has happened is I think we have sort of hardened our processes so that we are still able to perform even under these stresses. And it comes down to time for our clients. They have to get moving and operable with their machines. We have just had to continually move forward and step in front of anything that can be thrown our way. And it's been everything has happened, so just making sure that we supply these properly and in good fashion. What that's going to do is gild us in this, we will get past this current world condition, and the strengths and methods that have tempered us during this time
Mm-hmm.
are going to make us that much more capable when we scale. I could never have imagined last fall that we would be at a point where we are able to expand. We have been working for years actually to set up a small factory in rural Alberta.
Oh yeah.
And it's been 2 or 3 years just making that able to happen. And eventually I want to take this as the sustainable industry and plant a factory in Alberta where, we can learn these skills and we can practice science in such a deep way. So that's kind of what we're building for. And this is how we're going to take it there.
And what sort of mindsets do you think that is sort of kind of planted in almost everyone's minds that should be changed?
Yeah, I wonder if sometimes we all maybe, I certainly find myself doing it. So this kind of comes from a point of self-reflection, right? Things that, I know that I could do better when I'm handling my own plastics, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's that we maybe have one role to play when it comes to how we use them and what we do. Are we simply consumers, and this is what a consumer does?
Mm-hmm.
It's such a thin band of the actual life cycle of the material that I wonder if we all just need to maybe, at least this has been helping me say, I took this is mine now. It's my plastic piece. And now
Mm-hmm.
what am I going to do with it so that when I send it on its way in this tiny little fraction of its lifetime, I'm at least considering how to do that for its best life,
Mm-hmm.
and be a little bit sentimental about where things you've used go,
Mm-hmm.
conscious of that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what it did for me is it started me looking at our waste in our own home. How much plastic does, the average, 2.7 kilograms of, plastic developed in a home every week, what does that actually look like? Like what,
Mm-hmm.
how big is that? You
Mm-hmm.
know, and acknowledging that while everything that I, you know, intend to recycle, that I know that beyond me, it probably, I don't know where it goes. I'm not sure it's being recycled, versus the plastics that I put in another place to that where I intend to be recycled, and
Mm-hmm.
what those do. And what I've begun doing is capturing as many of our just own home materials that I can, and testing machines, and you know, just making a table of all the different types of plastic. So it's certainly turned into quite a study for me, and the the way I hope it might translate to other people is that it can be our way of life. This is, you know, citizen science is a way of life of science.
Mm-hmm.
You're not, you know, clocking in at the lab in order to qualify to be a citizen scientist. It can be common sense. It can be an ethos.
Mm-hmm.
It's certainly fun and engaging, and you find yourself having all sorts of little adventures. And I think this can be just as personal and solve a huge problem.
Mm-hmm.
We know that there's a connective tissue building,
Mm-hmm. Yes,
and it
definitely.
should be with people. We cannot rely on infrastructure, and we can't rely on this, you know, this old method all of a sudden working.
Mm-hmm.
And so it has to be a human development. It has to be through our growth of a culture that does involve industry, and it does involve sciences directly,
Yes,
where
yes.
we're peers, not
Mm-hmm.
parallels, you know.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for taking the time to watch this interview with Dave Altis. We learned a lot and we hope you did too. We continue to film interviews with people knowledgeable about plastics. So if you're interested in the Plastic Remanufacture project by the Regional Environmental Action Committee, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. We have links and resources down below where you can support us and learn more about our purpose. Thanks again for watching and take care.